Open the door, Ada. Please, just listen to me. Rain hammered against the narrow street in Soryaleer, bouncing off cars, off rooftops, off his face. Min-hyuk Han, the Korean billionaire the news once called the Ice King of Seoul, was drenched from head to toe, standing before a small brown-painted door that refused to open. Every knock echoed like thunder. Hello family, welcome back. Before we dive deeper, I just want to let you know that this is part 2 of the story. If you want to watch part 1 to fully understand, click the first link in the description. While you are there, please hit subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive, stories about second chances, storms, and hearts that still believe in healing. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, your country, your city, your own kind of rain. Alright, let's continue. Go home, Min-hyuk, a woman's voice shouted from behind the door. I don't want to see you. He pressed his forehead to the metal frame. You don't have to say anything. I just need to see you breathing. Inside, Ada Johnson stood motionless. 2 years had passed since the night that changed everything. The night a storm, a mistake, and a misunderstanding had torn their worlds apart. Now she lived here, one-bedroom flat, humming refrigerator, half-finished art on the wall, the quiet life of someone learning not to hope again. Min-hyuk's voice broke through the rain. You left me a message, on your old phone. You never sent it. Ada's stomach tightened. She remembered the words she'd typed and deleted 100 times. I wish you'd believed me. How did he find it? She pressed a palm against the door, voice shaking. That was 2 years ago. Then let it be today, he said softly. He waited. He kept waiting. Rain slid down his jaw, pooling around his shoes. He could have left, men like him always left, but he stayed. That, more than anything, made her hand reach for the lock. The latch clicked. The door opened a crack. They stared at each other. Him, trembling from the cold. Her, trembling from everything else. He whispered again, almost to himself. I just needed to see you breathing. Ada hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in, you'll catch your death. He entered quietly, leaving puddles behind. The small apartment smelled of wet dust and soap. She handed him a towel, refusing to meet his eyes. When he reached for it, their fingers brushed, briefly, gently, enough to make the air tremble. Neither spoke. The rain filled the silence for them. He rubbed the towel across his hair, still watching her. She turned away, pretending to fix the curtains. Why now? She whispered. Because I finally stopped believing the lies, he said, and started missing the truth. Her chest tightened. She wanted to tell him everything, the pain, the child, the storm that never really ended, but fear sat between them like another person. He placed the towel on the table and walked to the door. I won't ask you to forgive me, he said quietly. I'll just wait until you remember who we were before the rain. Then he left. The door closed behind him with a soft thud. Ada stood still, staring at the towel he'd touched. Her fingers drifted to the spot where their hands had met. She whispered to the empty room. Don't make me remember. Outside, the rain softened to a gentle rhythm, a lullaby for broken hearts that still dared to hope. Sometimes love doesn't die. It hides, behind a door, behind pride, behind the rain, waiting for one brave knock to wake it again. He looks like you know. Min-hyuk froze halfway through the doorway of the community center classroom. Rainlight filtered through the window bars, spilling across the floor where little Daniel lay asleep, one small hand curled around a toy car. Ada Johnson sat beside him, humming an old Yoruba lullaby, soft, round vowels rising and falling like breathing. Min-hyuk didn't move. The song filled the room, delicate as incense. He hadn't heard a sound that gentle since Seoul winters when his grandmother used to hum through snow. He whispered, What does it mean? Ada didn't look up. It's a prayer for children who dream in the rain. He knelt slowly on the other side of the sleeping boy. The mat creaked. Their eyes met above Daniel's curls. Something unspoken passed between them, part wonder, part ache. He really does look like you, she said quietly. He gave a small, sad laugh. That's what makes it harder to believe. Her gaze dropped to the child. Belief doesn't need proof, Min-hyuk. It needs peace. He sat cross-legged on the floor. The silence between them was soft, not heavy. Just breathing, rain, the hum of a ceiling fan that refused to quit. You make silence feel like peace, he said. Ada smiled faintly. Peace doesn't last long around us. For a while they watched Daniel sleep. The child murmured, rolled closer to Ada's lap, and she stroked his hair until his breathing steadied. Every motion was careful, tender, practiced. Min-hyuk whispered, "He's lucky to have you." Her answer came like wind, "We're lucky to have storms that end." The rain eased outside, replaced by the buzz of Lagos traffic, the cry of a street vendor calling, "Age bread." The world was ordinary again, yet nothing inside that room felt ordinary. When she finally carried Daniel to the small cot in the corner, Min-hyuk stood to leave. At the door he paused. "Ada, if I ever knew how to pray, it would sound like your lullaby." She didn't turn around. "Then pray for peace, Min-hyuk. Not for us, just peace." He nodded once and stepped into the gray afternoon. His reflection in the puddle looked like another man entirely, one who finally knew what he'd lost. That night he dreamed of her laughter. Not the woman from the storm, not the stranger from the lie, but the mother who hummed peace into sleeping children. Sometimes a man doesn't need to be told he's a father. Family, please subscribe and share where you're watching from. Through these stories, we remind the world that forgiveness is still stronger than fear. You did what? The shout cracked through the marble hallway of Han Group's Lagos office. Rain rattled against the tall windows, echoing the fury in Min-hyuk Han's voice. His phone trembled in his palm. "You forged it, Ioma," he demanded in Korean. "I trusted you." A calm voice on the line. "I protected you. That woman wanted your name, not your heart." He shut his eyes. "She wanted honesty," he whispered, but his mother was already gone, leaving only static and rain. Min-hyuk stared at the glass, his own reflection blurred by lightning. In that moment he felt 12 years old again, the boy who did what family demanded. But this time he turned, grabbed his coat, and ran into the storm. Soryule smelled of wet dust and diesel. By the time he reached Adaora Johnson's apartment, his shirt clung to him, and thunder chased every breath. He knocked once, hard, then again, softer. Ada opened the door halfway, wary. "Min-hyuk, you shouldn't." He cut her off, voice breaking. "It was my mother." Her eyes narrowed. "What about her?" She changed the test. The DNA result. It wasn't true." Silence. Only the rain answered for a long heartbeat. "You're saying?" "That I believed a lie," he said. "And I threw you away because of it." Ada's hand gripped the edge of the door. All those months of shame, the quiet nights of rocking a child alone, came rushing back. "Do you think sorry fixes everything?" "No," he said. "Sorry is a beginning, not an ending." He stepped forward, but stopped when she flinched. "I won't touch you unless you let me." Her chin lifted. "You think truth changes what's broken?" He swallowed. "No, but it can stop the bleeding." For a long moment neither moved. Then she whispered, "You don't know how hard it was to breathe without you." "I'm learning," he said. "You're the only thing that still feels real." Something in his voice broke her resistance. She stepped closer, tears blurring her lashes. When his hand reached for hers, she didn't pull away. Instead she rested her forehead against his chest. No words, no promises, just the shared sound of two heartbeats trying to find the same rhythm again. Rain slid down the open doorway behind them, tapping softly on the floor. It no longer sounded like punishment. It sounded like mercy. Ada drew back first. "Go home, Min-hyuk. If you really mean what you said, you'll let the truth do the healing." He nodded, voice low. "I'll wait, even if it takes another storm." When he left, she stood at the door, watching the rain swallow his silhouette. Her palm pressed against her chest where his warmth still lingered. Truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just breaks the lock so you can decide whether to open the door again. You were never mine to keep. Ada's voice sliced through the storm. She stood in the middle of the narrow living room, rain pouring outside the window, her hands trembling as thunder rolled like drums in the sky. Across from her, Min-hyuk Han didn't move. His eyes were tired, his face streaked with the kind of sadness that doesn't ask for pity. Ada's words echoed. "You were never mine to keep." Min-hyuk whispered, "Maybe not. But I was never anyone else's either." She laughed, bitter and wet. "You think one apology cleans 2 years of pain?" He took a step closer. "No. I think it's a place to start." Lightning flashed, whitening the walls. For a heartbeat they both looked like ghosts, two people haunting the same memory. Ada turned away, pressing her palm against the cool window pane. "You don't get to come back and make me remember what it felt like to love you." Behind her, he said softly, "Then let me help you forget everything except this moment." She spun around. "You still don't understand. I built peace out of your absence. Don't ruin it." Min-hyuk's steps were slow, deliberate, until he stood just in front of her. He reached up, not to claim, not to demand, but to wipe a tear that had escaped down her cheek. She didn't flinch this time. "I ruined everything before," he said. "Let me be yours for one moment, even if it's borrowed." The words broke something inside her. She closed her eyes as his forehead touched hers, a kiss that never quite happened, yet said everything a kiss could say. Their tears met in the tiny space between them, indistinguishable from the rain. For a while there was no thunder, no noise, just the quiet rhythm of breathing. Ada's voice came out a whisper. "It's easier to hate you." "I know," he said. "But you're too kind for hatred." She gave a weak laugh. "You overestimate me." "I don't think so," he murmured. When she opened her eyes, the rain outside had softened to a drizzle. Min-hyuk took a half-step back, as if afraid to break the fragile calm they'd found. "I'm not asking you to forget," he said. "I'm asking you to believe we can survive the remembering." Ada looked down, her hands twisting together. "You make it sound easy." "It's the hardest thing I've ever said." For a long moment neither of them spoke. The sound of the city drifted in, horns, generators, the smell of wet earth. Then she whispered, "You should go before the rain stops completely." He hesitated, then nodded. "If I leave now, will you still hear me when the next storm comes?" She met his eyes. "I always hear you when it rains." He smiled, small, broken, but real, and walked out into the night. Through the thin curtain she watched him lift his face to the rain, as if it could wash away every lie between them. Ada pressed her forehead against the glass. "We keep finding each other in storms," she whispered. "Maybe that's all we'll ever be. Some people meet in sunlight, others in rain. But the ones who survive are those who learn that storms don't end love, they reveal it." "Ada, don't go where I can't follow." His voice tore through the downpour as passengers hurried across the airport tarmac, umbrellas flipping in the wind. Ada Aura Johnson froze halfway up the steps of the small regional flight to Abuja, her son's tiny hand in hers. She turned slowly. The wind caught her scarf, rain soaked her jacket, and there he was, Min-hyuk Han, the billionaire who once thought the world could be managed like a company report. Now he was just a man, running through puddles to reach her, his shoes ruined, his heart open. "Ada," he said, breathing hard, "please, don't leave like this." Her voice trembled. "What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? That everything is fine?" He shook his head. "No. I want you to tell me the truth, even if it hurts." For a heartbeat, the only sound was rain hitting metal wings. Then she whispered, "The truth is, I loved you, once. Maybe I still do. But love isn't always enough." He stepped closer. "Then let it be enough for today." Her eyes filled. "You're too late, Min-hyuk. The flight's boarding." He looked at the boy standing beside her, Daniel, curious, quiet, clutching his small backpack. Something flickered behind Min-hyuk's eyes. Pain, hope, a recognition that didn't need proof. "Ada," he said softly, "I don't care whose name he carries. I just want you both to have peace." She blinked against the rain. "Peace," she repeated. "That's all I ever wanted." Then she turned to the child. "Say goodbye, Daniel." But Daniel didn't move. He slipped his hand from hers and ran back into the rain, straight toward Min-hyuk. "Appa," the boy shouted. The Korean word for father echoed across the tarmac. Ada's breath caught. The world seemed to hold still. Min-hyuk knelt, gathering the boy into his arms, the umbrella he'd been carrying falling useless to the ground. When he looked up at Ada again, his expression had changed. No longer desperation, only calm. He reached for the umbrella, opened it above her and the boy, shielding them all three from the storm. "This time," he said quietly, "we don't run from the rain. We stand in it." Ada looked at him for a long moment, the weight of 2 years settling into something lighter. She stepped forward and wrapped one arm around Daniel, the other brushing Min-hyuk's sleeve. No grand gestures, just a shared breath beneath a trembling umbrella. The boarding call faded in the distance. Planes taxied. Life went on. But under that small circle of shelter, forgiveness finally found its place. Some stories end in sunlight. Others end in rain. But the ones that last end with two people who decide to stop running,